And action!
That's my wife back there. Thank you, Miss Katia. Hey everyone, welcome back to Global Dance News. I am Israel Rodriguez, and my goal is to bring you dance-related interviews, tips, tutorials, as well as news about what is happening in the dance world. Whether that news is positive or negative, I am here for you. Well, what can I tell you about Rasta Thomas? A dance star, a martial artist, a teacher, choreographer, director, a dancer who inspired everyone who had the chance to see him dance. He spoke with humanity, he spoke the reality of dance, and I hope you can take this interview the same way I took it, as a gift. I know you're going to enjoy it, and I will see you in a few minutes. Rasta, let's start. I'm so happy, my friend, and I'm so glad that finally we could do this. You know,
Absolutely.
you always been very supportive of my work and my dancing, and I can just go on and on and on. I've
Well,
always.
let me say first, thank you for having me on Global Dance News. It's a big honor. I support this endeavor, and I know it's going to be great.
Oh, my friend. That's it, and that's the interview.
And cut.
Thank you, my friend. No, I was just talking to Katia, and like I don't think Rasta realized that or has realized that you are, but I was a fan of you, like little. I was remember when we met back in Orlando Ballet with Fernando Bujones. Sergio Brinduza was the one who told me I know Rasta, and then like, oh yeah, he's coming, and I was, I don't know if I never told you that, but I was so excited that I was going to meet you, and because you're an inspiration for not only me but a lot of people. So.
It's very kind, but I think you understand, when it's hard for me at least to hear that, because as a dancer, I was never satisfied with with um, with how I was dancing. I was never satisfied with my ability to dance. I was never comfortable in my own skin. Believe it or not, I was very insecure. I've been a very insecure dancer my whole career. I felt I had limited turnout. I wasn't the tall prince. My butt was too big, and I always had a lot of insecurity. So when people would give me a compliment, it never really seemed real. It wasn't until much later in my career where I could accept it. I could say, okay, thank you, I appreciate that. But even you as my friend and someone I love, hearing it feels a little like uncomfortable. And I don't know why. I think because I had such harsh teachers. My teachers were always instilling perfection, and there is no perfection. So if you've never achieved perfection, and perfection is the only marker, you never really feel secure. You never really have a strong, emotional standing to your dancing. And it wasn't until later that I remembered that I was a martial artist, and I remembered the philosophy of movement, which really helped me to find my center as a dancer. So I appreciate the comment.
Well, Rasta, look, one of the reasons is because you are very humble. You've always been very humble. But this is the thing. It's so important what you're saying, because I never felt that you were insecure. And it's so amazing that you're saying that right now, because you have a lot of great opportunity. Tell me, how is possible that Rasta Thomas is saying now I was a little bit insecure?
For the same reason I feel insecure now giving this interview. Judgment. Anytime someone judges you, you feel vulnerable, and you have the highest expectations of yourself. Usually, I think the great dancers and the great talents are great because they don't stop when someone tells them they did a good job. They keep saying, I can be better, I can be better, I can do better. So hearing of my accomplishment or someone appreciating my performance was great, but I remember I missed the fourth pirouette, or my cabriole wasn't as big, or my left foot sickled. So I'm thinking, well, they just didn't see it. Or because my teacher saw it, and there's a difference between your teacher seeing it and the audience seeing it. And I think the biggest compliments I ever received were from my colleagues, from my peers, professional dancers that said, hey, that was really good, because that meant more to me than someone who was just a fan, because they really know what technique is. They really understand it. So
No.
yeah, I think being insecure is also to a certain point, it can be unhealthy, but to a certain point, it's what keeps you going, because you always want to prove it to yourself or to someone. And because I did competitions from such a young age, I only wanted the result. After I did that competition, I wanted the next competition. After I did that gala, I wanted the next gala. I was kind of like a racehorse, always looking for the next show, the next time to perform. And as soon as that finished, the rush would leave my body and I would want the next rush. But, there's always another. It's like an addiction. It's like being a dance addict and needing to feel this love from the audience and this love for yourself. And you never really love yourself enough as an artist.
I agree with you. Is in the other side, on the other hand, in my case, I wasn't never insecure. But at the same time, I'm always ask myself why I am probably the only Cuban who cannot do more than 4 pirouettes. I couldn't do more than 4 pirouettes, and you might say, well, yeah, but 4 pirouettes is still good, but I wasn't that consistent, Ras, now speaking about competitions, was competition important for you to be the dancer you are right now?
It was important for me to have the career I had. Yeah, I think competitions give you bragging rights. They allow you to say, this is what makes me a little different or a little special in comparison to others. I don't think that they're imperative to having a successful career, but I definitely think that they create publicity for yourself. They create an opportunity for someone to find out about you. It's not social networking, but it is networking. You have many, artistic directors at the competitions that are the jury members. So it's a very, I have a feeling you froze.
Yeah, you too. Yeah.
Yeah, all right, I'm gonna say it again.
I'm sorry about it, brothers.
No, it's fine. I think competitions are important if you use them correctly. I think competitions can be very defeating if I didn't do what I thought I should do, or if I didn't do what someone else wanted me to do. But if I'm truly judging competition against myself, and I'm looking at yesterday's rehearsal or rehearsal 1 month ago, and then I'm comparing my performance on stage the day of the competition, and I look at those 2 videos, if I see that the video in competition is better than what I did 1 month ago, then I'm making self-improvement. And I think that's very positive. But if I'm looking at what I did a month ago, and then I'm looking at what I did on stage, and I did improve, but I'm still unhappy because I'm not as good as Israel, then it becomes negative. You have to remember the purpose of competition is really to self-improve. Yes, it's wonderful when you get the scholarship or the job, but it's not the most important. However, knowing that, I would say that I used it in the opposite way I'm saying to use it. I used it to say, hey, look at me. I got a gold medal. Look at me. I have another gold medal. Hire me. So I really think it's important for the school and the teacher and yourself to understand what you're really trying to get out of it.
Now, how come sometimes dancers who won many competitions, they cannot get into a company?
I think it's the difference between a technical dancer and an artist. And I don't think there are many artists. I think, if I have a technical dancer, I really don't know what they can do, what they can make me feel, and their proportions. Maybe they're very super tall and skinny, or super tall and big, or really short. And, you know, it also depends on what I'm looking for in my company. And I think every artistic director has a different vision, and maybe they already have 15 girls that are this height, or, you know, they already have a dynamic, and here you are and you're fantastic, but you're just not a good fit for that company. And you're saying, I can do 6 pirouettes, I can do 10 pirouettes, why won't they hire me? And it has nothing to do maybe with your talent or your technique specifically. It has something to do with an overall vision that that director has. And it hurts. It's very painful when you know you can technically do something that someone else can't, and then you don't get rewarded, or you don't get that job. But you can't think of that personally. You can't think that that's against you. That's just a situation that's much larger than you. And if you keep looking, there probably will be a place, you know, for
It's
you to
true.
dance.
And for example, my students, you know, Katya and I, we bring them to certain competitions, and we always try to tell them uh, the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So what are you getting from this? You don't need to win. Of course, we're training you. Of course, if you win, that would be great. We never put the winning first. We put the experience. We put the uh, the communication with other teachers. You know, other directors seeing you, because I've seen so many, and I repeat this in other interviews, but I've seen a few students and they get very, if this is a right word, discouraged because they don't win. And then they go to their parents, and then the parents go, I'm spending so much money on this, and my daughter, my son cannot win. And that it's not necessary that they are bad, is maybe there's other better than them or whatever, or they win, but then they don't get into a company, and it can be a little bit frustrating. But what advice or what can you tell parents?
I think well, I think there are 3 different areas. One is, how much improvement did I make in preparation for this competition? How much improvement? If I could only do 30 fouettes 2 months ago, and now I can do 32 perfectly, well, that's improvement, and I have to celebrate that. I don't know what their journey is. When I get to the competition, I don't know how hard they've been working. It's very difficult to compare myself to their journey, because maybe they've had a different upbringing. Maybe they have different genetics. Maybe it's more natural for them. So it's very difficult to compare art. And this ballet is art. So yes, you can get discouraged. But I think if you're really comparing yourself against yourself, you're not going to get discouraged, because if you're improving, that's the key. We all want to win, but we don't know what the judges are looking at always. And we don't know, again, you just don't know what they've gone through. In terms of getting a job, dance chooses you. You can want to dance as much as you want and do all these competitions, but to be a professional dancer, it's not really your decision. It chooses you. I think everyone should dance. Everyone should learn from dancing and learn rhythm and learn body awareness and passion for music and art. But for me to just wake up one day and say, hey, dance is going to pay me to make a living, that's not realistic. That's like me saying I want, basketball to pay me. There has to be some reality. And I think a large part comes from the parents not being educated and the teachers not being educated and not really being honest with the student. So the child does these competitions, they win medals, and the teacher is quiet the whole time, knowing that these medals won't lead to a career. But they don't want to say that because they want to get the money for tuition. And then the parents thinking, take my money because my child's going to be a dancer. Dance is very funny, where we all think somehow we can all be dancers. For some reason, it's in the water. I take my child to dance school. There's a possibility she will be a dancer. I take my son to this school. There's a possibility no. It's like me taking my child to baseball school or basketball school. There's no guarantee.
There is a saying that dance is for everyone. And yes, it is for everyone. It's when people get confused. Yeah, it is for everyone. I'm talking about you don't. You can be gay. You can be a dancer. You can be straight. You know, you don't need to be white, black, or yellow to be a dancer, to be a good one. In terms of person, yes. What I'm trying to say is you have to know that there is a lot of sacrifice that goes into it, and not everyone can handle that. So to
A lot
promote,
of
to promote the dance is for everyone. Yes, to a certain point, of course. Depending how you use that question.
I agree. I think that dance is big business, and I think the information of the people from the people who have this information to share the information, they don't want to share the information because by not sharing information in dance, you can make more. And the information that needs to be shared with the child and with the parent is often withheld to profit ulterior motives. And it's very sad when this power is used abusively, just for financial gains, because it can be a detriment to the child. At the same time, I do think dancing is for everyone, and not everyone is going to be a professional dancer. And I think this is a truth that has to be accepted. Just like I'm not going to be a model, or this is just, life is not fair. But I think the same people that get into dancing and thinking that they should have a career or that they will be dancers are the same children that think at 8 years old and 9 years old they should have an iPhone. I think it's
That's correct.
the society of give me, give me, give me, give me, without hard work, without the sacrifice. And the one thing that people don't like to talk about is without the genetics. Without my parents being healthy, athletic parents, there's a high probability that I'm not going to be active, athletic young child to become a professional athlete, because dancing is a sport. To become a professional dancer, you are a professional athlete. And if your parents weren't athletic, there's a high probability, you may have the mental strength, you may have the passion, you may have the desire, but it doesn't come in the package that is acceptable in society, to pay for. People want to go dance, they can go to a club, they can go to a party, but for me to pay you to dance, you have to be able to do something I can't do. You have to be able to do something that makes me feel alive and makes me feel magical. And if I don't feel that you can do that, I'm not going to pay you for it.
Raz, for example, another question I want to ask is
Of course.
about directors. You know,
Yeah.
you've been directing. You hasn't been only a dancer, but you've been directing, you've been choreographing and everything. What do you think about directors and their use of powers?
I think, it's a reflection of who they are. I think if they're insecure, then they're going to be more abusive. And if they are secure, then they're going to be more giving and more loving. Two directors I love with all my heart are Peter Bowl and Alonzo King. They're so accomplished and they're so versed in who they are that they can really help you to make you your best dancer. But others were not very good dancers. They were businessmen, and they were in the Corps, or they, never had a career that they wanted, but they somehow politicked their way into becoming an artistic director. And I think that they can be abusive. I think it depends what their agenda is, what their beliefs are, what the board is allowing them to do. Directors get a bad rap in general because they have to sometimes make the difficult choices. And the choices they make aren't always logical. Sometimes they're opinionated. I don't want this girl to dance tonight, I want this girl. When a director has to make the tough choices and it's unfair, or it feels unfair, it hurts the most. I did do 6 pirouettes last week in the show. Why are they giving this performance to someone that's doing 3? And again, that's looking at a very technical observation of why the director's choosing that. If the director doesn't care about, the technique, but they care more about the artistry, you have to understand that he's probably giving that person the role because they're a greater artist. But in the end, ultimately, I think that no matter how much preference or politics or biasness a director has, every dancer has the opportunity to make that magic come alive on stage. And if the audience feels that magic, then it's undeniable that you will continue to succeed as an artist, as a dancer, because I may say, okay, I want you in the core, even though you can do more than what the principal does. But you just standing there in the core may create more magic, and the audience may keep looking at you because there's a certain quality. And eventually the director will get the report from the fans or from the board. Why is she in the core? She's amazing, give her something. And then, I mean, I'm an idealist. So I like to believe at the end of the road, the person that's most deserving will get it. It may not come in a linear form. You may not get it from the beginning, but if you really cultivate your art form, you can't be denied. Your magic can't be denied. When you come on stage, everyone feels it. Everyone can feel that magic. And no matter how much you're making, no matter what injury you have, they can feel that. And that is, no one can take that from you.
Absolutely perfect. Now you said something, injuries. Right now I see a lot of students getting injured more and often and often and often. And also I see some parents not understanding that pushing them so much and making them believe that, oh, it's gonna pass. Don't worry, just go and do it. They want their own result. And sometimes I believe they don't understand that if they don't take care of themselves right now, their future is going to be stopped. I always want, as a teacher, as an educator, I want to advise a lot of parents that come to me and say, oh, she will be fine. What is your advice to parents, to students that at some point have an injury, and I'm saying this as a student, but also for professionals,
I'm working on a concept right now to help assess every child's ability. Injuries can be avoided if you know your physical limitations. If I know I'm 5'9", 5'10", and my hip rotation is 160 degrees, then I know that that's my framework to work in. And if someone gets their leg up to 170 or 180, I have to understand that's not me. And my teacher has to know that's not for you. Don't keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because it's like beating a dead horse. Of course, it's going to result in injury.
That's right.
A lot of teachers don't know anatomy. They don't know what a body can do and what a body can't do. And the parents definitely don't know. All a parent sees is they're getting their leg really high and they tell their daughter, push more, push more, push more. So I think until we have a better understanding of what my body can physically do compared to my body, think about that. What does my 100% look like against my 100%? Not what does my 100% look like compared to Krishnikov or someone else. And I think we all compare ourselves to the superheroes of dance. Someone's online with their leg up, someone's online doing 10 pirouettes, someone's online doing triple cabrioles, and we're thinking, oh, I want to do that. And there might be a way for you to do that safely, but it's probably not the way you're doing it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm telling
you.
And
a lot of teachers, it's bad for business to me to talk to a parent and say, hey, you know what? Your child is physically limited. There are some things your child will not be able to do. A parent doesn't want to hear that. They'll take them to another school. Yeah, I know the pressure of a parent. My father would put a lot of pressure on me. And
you were trained by your father and obviously other teachers and coaches, but I'm going to ask you questions that I probably had before. I never asked you. I heard that you really were like overworked, that you that really, I'm assuming he wants the best for you, but you felt at some point that wasn't going to be too much?
Yeah, for sure. I think the way my father trained me was one of the hardest things in my life. abusive.
So do you enjoy this episode, guys? If you think you did, well, do me a favor, share with somebody else. Now, second part is coming next week. Please leave your comments down there. Tell me if you agree with what Rasta Thomas said. Tell me if you agreed with what I said or disagreed. But what's important is that you walk away learning something. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next episode. Please be safe and be blessed.